Now we move on to Metallica's final classic 80s album and my favorite Metallica album, And Justice for All. Tragically, right after the release of Master of Puppets, when they were on the tour bus and somewhere in like Scandinavia, they hit a patch of ice in the tour bus and Cliff was flung out of the window of the bus and the bus crushed him. The band was super depressed and got even more into alcohol and stuff, and they needed a replacement. So they got Jason Newsted from the band, Flotsam and Jetsam, who was a very, very good bass player, and their first album that he was on was very, very good. So they got him in the band, but the problem was that they took out a lot of their anger and sadness on him. The album came out in 1988, and the artwork is very cool. It shows Lady Liberty being like stripped of her clothes and like ripped down with ropes and stuff, and he's like balancing money and it's spilling everywhere. The artwork is incredibly symbolic and very classic. And because of the whole dark background of this album being made, the album has a very dark sound and has a lot of dark themes and lyrics and everything. This is considered sort of their breakthrough album, where they got a lot of commercial success for the single One. It also had a music video on MTV. And after this album, they play like one of my absolute favorite live shows ever, Seattle '89. Everyone gives an amazing performance on this album. James Hetfield's vocals are very gruff and horrifying. The guitar playing from him and Kirk is absolutely awesome. And Lars's drumming is really technical on this album, although it has been proven that he faked a lot of the playing or cheated doing some of it. Now, everyone, including myself's biggest problem with this album is the fact that the production's not very good. The drums are way too loud and clicky, the guitars are incredibly trebly, the whole production's trebly and like drowned and stuff, and there's no bass. There's this whole big debacle with that, and apparently the producer finally recently said what happened was Lars Ulrich was the culprit behind this, because he wanted a certain drum tone, but he was like, no, we're gonna just have the drums the way we want it or whatever. And then when he got the drum sound, then he got Jason Newsted and James Hetfield to add the riffs over top of it, and he mixed their riffs together very well with the drum sound, and it sounded awesome and fierce. And he said it sounded better than Master of Puppets. And then Lars got pissed off, cranked up the drum sound, and got really pissed off and cranked down the bass sound, so that it was completely inaudible. And then James didn't really care either way, and then Jason pretty much got screwed over. They have a lot of really long compositions with a lot of changes and a lot of like really technical stuff, especially like the song Frayed Ends of Sanity. There's a lot of really crazy Rush-like drumming in there. So we start the album with a song called Blackened, which is really weird because the intro is this intro that they wrote, but then decided to flip it around, make it backwards instead, and it sounds really weird. The backwards intro actually helps with this really creepy atmosphere for the rest of the song. And the main riff was, I believe, a Jason Newsted riff that they kind of altered a little bit to sound a little bit more thrashy. And that riff is an absolutely classic Metallica riff. I believe the song is about nuclear war and how like blacken the earth. The riff is just so freaking unique and odd. It's awesome. And then we get to the middle section where it's really cool mid-tempo and some really great vocal lines from James Hetfield. I really enjoyed the guitar solo from Kirk Hammett later in the song. One of the best songs off the album for sure, and a complete Metallica classic. I'd say it's overall as a song probably the best Metallica opener, but I do prefer listening to Battery for like an opener. But this song is probably the best song that's an opener, not the best song for an opener, if that makes any sense at all. Then we have the epic song, And Justice for All, the title track. It starts with this really beautiful, intricate guitar line that goes from like a major scale and then ends in a minor scale. It's really interesting. And of course it gets heavier, and you have some really cool, intricate drumming from Lars. There's a lot of really cool changes in there, and the main riff is really cool and catchy. And that chorus is extremely anthemic. Justice is lost, justice is right, justice is good. And I think this may be James' best vocal performance in the entire album. It's very, very, very powerful here. The guitar solo in the middle is very, very good, and the riffs in there are really cool. But then my big problem with the song is that it's not as progressive as some of the other songs in the album, even though it's like almost the longest. It just kind of repeats the main parts of the song a second time through. That's why it's so long. But I'm not too pissed off about it. They did the same thing with Master of Puppets. It's still an awesome song. Then we have Eye of the Beholder, which is kind of a weird song. It's about the PMRC. The verse is really weird. It has this kind of like not Metallica sounding vibe to it. But then the pre-chorus is really cool. It's my favorite part of the whole song. That riff there is really, really great. And it's really dark and powerful. And then I love that chorus, the independence, liberty. The lyrics in that chorus are very, very cool and completely anti-PMRC. The guitar solo in there is really cool too. I'm not the biggest fan of the world of the main verse, but the rest of the song is absolutely kick-ass. Probably the most underrated song off the entire album, and maybe even the filler song, but it's still pretty cool. Then we have the classic song 1, the song with the MTV music video. This song is a really dark one. It's probably their best ballad too, but this one is about the book Johnny Got His Gun, which is also a movie, and they used a lot of scenes from the movie in the music video. And the book is about a guy who gets like blown to pieces in the war and can't communicate in any way, shape, or form, but his brain is still active within like what's left of his body, and he moves like his head or whatever. He's able to like move his head in like a way that's Morse code, and he's trying to tell the doctors to kill him. The song begins with a really, really great melodic line. It keeps building off itself, kind of like Call of Cthulhu did. And then throw a lot of great lead guitar lines over it, and we get to the verse, which is very, very beautiful and dark at the same time. James delivers an incredible job in that verse. However, I've always felt that the chorus has some cool riffs to it, but James's vocals are just weird because it's just paralleling the heavy riff, and it just kind of sounds a little out of place. But that melodic guitar line afterwards still saves it. Now, what's so great about this song as well is I think this is the absolute best transition in the middle of the song from light tone to a completely heavy fucking metal song. That transition part where it gets more and more and more epic is the absolute best transition build-up in any song I've ever heard. And then of course it gets to that heavy part, you know, that Beavis and Butthead love, that and Lars Ulrich described that whole section, like the drumming and stuff, as the machine gun parts, because it's about, you know, how we got blown up in the war, so it's like the machine guns and shit. And that keeps getting crazier and crazier, more frantic, and the guitar solo at the end is awesome. Probably the best song off the entire album, but not my personal favorite. Then we get to a very awesome thrashy song called The Shortest Straw. This one's very underrated, and there's a lot of songs in here that are deep cuts that are not talked about as much. And this is one of them. It's very thrashy and cool. The main riff is very, very frantic and has this awesome, like, fast groove to it. And the drums help give that really cool, grooving, speedy sound. Almost sounds like a Pantera song. The chorus is the absolute best part of the entire song. It's so fucking epic and awesome. Then we have one of the singles, Harvester of Sorrow, which is really interesting. It's kind of more like the For Whom the Bell Tolls and The Thing That Should Not Be for this album. It's very, very slow and heavy and dark, and it utilizes a lot of the same riffs over and over along the same tempo, kind of like For Whom the Bell Tolls did. And a lot of people say this, and I agree, it kind of sounds like a Black Album sort of song, because a lot of the Black Album songs would kind of be that idea of For Whom the Bell Tolls and Harvester of Sorrow, where there's not as many tempo changes and stuff. It would kind of remain along that same cool groove. And this song has a hell of a groove, and the lyrics on it are fucking awesome. With a song title like Harvester of Sorrow, you know you're in for a dark song. Of course, my favorite part is that cool melodic line, the do 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 do. That's the main reason I even listen to the song. It's, of course, a cool, heavy, dark groove, but that part is alone worth the awesome listen. Then we have my personal favorite song off the album, The Frayed Ends of Sanity. This song is prog metal. It's fucking absolutely insane. It's fast, it's technical, it's progressive, it's batshit insane. It starts with that part from The Wizard of Oz, where you have like I think it's the monkeys, right? Where they're like, oh, oh. And what's cool is that's actually the main riff of the song. They find a way to take that dark melody and then turn that into like this cool thrashy riff of the song. And the drums change a lot through that like main riff. It's really intricate and cool, and Lars cannot do that part worth a shit nowadays. And the lyrics of the song are awesome. It's about schizophrenia, and it perfectly delivers that whole atmosphere of insanity. And I love the line, fighting the fear of fear. And then, of course, the growing conspiracy, everyone's after me, the frayed ends of sanity, hear them calling me. This song has the best lyrics, the best solo, some of the best riffs off the entire album, and it's so underrated, too. This is like the least talked about song off the album. It's considered the filler, but it's fucking awesome. And then there's this riff later in the song that's really awesome. That keeps getting more and more chaotic. Build up to probably my favorite guitar solo of the whole album from Kirk. It's really technical and cool and pretty different. Then we get to the instrumental To Live Is To Die, which actually features the final Cliff Burton piece he ever wrote, which is in the middle. The song starts with like a weird acoustic-y intro that's really cool, but it's played a little too much in my opinion. And then we have these parts that James and Lars wrote that are kind of slow and heavy, and they repeat a little too much. It's sort of kind of going for that Call of Cthulhu vibe again, but it's not nearly as interesting. I do like a lot of the like guitar solos over top of it, though. I think it's like an interesting groove, I guess, but I like what they're doing over top of it instead. And then we get to that middle part that Cliff wrote, which is absolutely amazing. The only point in the album where you can actually hear bass. And they have some really melodic stuff over top of it. You can hear like some violins at one point. And then my favorite part of the song is when you have Kirk in the melodic part playing this amazing solo. Or it's James. I'm not sure which one it is at that point. It's probably James, though. He's usually known to play like the melodic solos. And then they all play this unison together that's really heavy and epic and beautiful. And it keeps getting more epic and epic and epic. Then it returns to the heavy, slow parts in the beginning of the song. And it has this like poetic thing that Cliff is reading off. Where he's like, and the thing he reads off is, when a man lies, he murders some part of the world. These are the pale deaths which men miscall their lives. All this I cannot bear to witness any longer. Cannot the kingdom of salvation take me home? Which is really, really powerful to hear that last part. There's kind of some fat here and there, especially with like the slow parts that kind of don't go anywhere. Now we have the fucking furiously fast song at the end of the album, Dyers Eve, which features probably Lars' best drumming ever because it's this incredibly fast double bass playing. The double bass kicks are on like 16th notes and shit. They're really fast, and Lars is not even that good of a drummer. But it turns out that he actually cheated. He spent like 2 weeks trying to get one take of that, finally got it, and then just loops it throughout the rest of the song. The lyrics are really dark. It's about James's parents and how he was pissed off at him, like, dear father, dear mother, what is this hell you put me through? The riffs in there are really frantic and awesome, and I love the later parts of the song, and the guitar solo is kick-ass. An awesome way to end my favorite Metallica album. I think this album would probably be like a 10 out of 10 if it had bass, in my opinion. There's some incredibly underrated songs in here.